my entire family there. There's very few of my last name is uncommon even in Dutch. So come on down to Southern Holland and visit my location. But welcome anytime in Winnipeg. If you like -40, we're all about -40. We cuddle a lot.
We used to.
Yes, well, yeah, and you get some of this too. Anyway, so I'm going to talk today to you guys a little bit about physical literacy. I rove a little bit, and I'm sensitive to that being there, but I'm going to talk about physical literacy and the journey that's happened literally across the world and where we're status at. What you guys don't know, and you get these slides, by the way, so I'm going to give you these slides, every single one. I'm a professor at the University of Manitoba for just coming on 30 years. So I teach in physiotherapy, as well as orthopedics, exercise physiology, but my training is neuroscience. So I'm a brain scientist, and that's most of my research. What people often don't know about me is that at the National Circus School in Montreal and at Cirque du Soleil, I'm the head of training optimization research for the entire Cirque du Soleil group. So we have 800 performers worldwide, 23 shows, and then the top circus school in the world is in Montreal, right across the street from Cirque du Soleil. And the reason why that's relevant, and I'll mention it through this, is that they are the most physically literate people on the face of the planet. And we study them to understand what the potential benefits of physical literacy can be. So much so that we're now seeing, and I come from high performance sport, that there should be a much higher communication between the circus world and the sport world, because we do similar things. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go. Now, I'd be remiss in not telling you that next Easter weekend in Canada in 2017 is the 3rd ever International Physical Literacy Conference. Last time we had about 20 countries there and 500 people. And in Vancouver, Canada, when we had the Women's World Cup soccer event. And so this will be in Toronto next. It's the 3rd one. The first one was in Banff, Canada. So they've all been in Canada for a variety of reasons. The first ever physical literacy conference was actually in Bedfordshire County in 2011-ish. And it had 65 people in it. And these are around 500-600. And now in individual towns in Canada, we have 600-700 person conferences on physical literacy across in every single major town. So that means the entire communities come out. And we've had those for 4 to 8 years now in having conferences at that level. So the word is being spread very quickly. And in any movement like this, it is initially an awareness campaign. And then the second question is how to do it differently. How does this mean different practice from day to day? So I like to start off with this thing. UNESCO is a fairly big agency, and UNESCO is a company that really said, hey, we think that reading and writing literacy is important for every person in the world, because if you can't read and write, how can you participate in this world? So these guys say this statement right here. They basically say that reading and writing is crucial and critical for everybody, whether you're young or old, from cradle to grave. And it's an indispensable skill to participate in this world. If you just read that, no parent on the face of the planet can actually not agree with that statement. I don't need science to say that. And there's never been science showing that literacy is a really good thing. Because how do you actually do the science? You're not going to learn how to read. You will study. That's unfair. Unethical. So at the end of the day, I believe in this. I'm a university professor. If you can't read and write, you can't communicate, we're in trouble. So all I do is to this, I say, physical literacy is crucial to the acquisition by every child, youth, and adult. And it's an essential life skill for active participation in this world. Almost everybody in this world is physical, and you have to accept that. I mean, it's at face value, it's obvious. So in Canada, we've now set the stage by just using such a simple elevator speech like this, set the stage in our conversations with the health ministry, sport, education, recreation, leisure, physiotherapy, it doesn't matter. We've now set the stage to say physical literacy should be on equal footing to numeracy and literacy. Because our troubles in this world are mostly poor health. Literacy has created the best knowledge framework we've ever had. We're the most knowledgeable society on the face of the planet, but knowing doesn't mean doing. And that's been our problem in all of our cultures. The American culture, Canadian culture, Swedish culture, even Finnish culture is shifting in the wrong direction. We know what to do, but we don't do it. And that's the problem. So we push very strongly in the countries that have adopted and embraced physical literacy that learning to move is just as important as learning to read and write. And in this day and age, we see that as extremely valuable. And you can paraphrase this in many different ways, but our culture doesn't value movement. Matter of fact, our culture values watching people move. That's called the Olympics. There's more people sedentary watching the Olympics than there are people active at the Olympics. And so we are the greatest spectator society in the face of the planet. And so we need to pull people out of being spectators. And that's a dilemma for us in sport, isn't it? Because we want spectators, but if there's too many spectators, we don't get participants. So that's an interesting problem. Physical literacy, we say, and I'll show you evidence for this, physical literacy, we say, is the gateway to active participation. I'll show you the data on that in a second. And we also say that there's a journey, not a destination. And it's not just for kids, it's from cradle to grave. So every individual needs to be physically literate. And why is that important? In Canada, in Winnipeg where I live, we have slippery surfaces for about 6 months of the year. Straight, you walk on ice. If you can't walk on ice, you won't go outside. If you won't go outside, you'll be inactive for 6 months. So if you're 60 years of age, you should be, every 60-year-old should be able to run and slide on ice. But they're afraid of it. And as a result of that, and they don't know how to fall. And falling is so much fun. But over 60, if you fall and you break a hip, 20% of people will die within a year if they break their hip over 60. So that we now in physio will develop falls prevention programs. But that's fear-mongering. It should be mobility enhancement through physical literacy. So we have to rephrase everything in a positive light. And if you have people who can move on ice, hey, well, that's a great thing, especially in Swedish culture and Canadian culture for sure. That's our world, isn't it? Swipe right, swipe left. I don't know what that is, but it's something to do with Tinder. But in the end of the day, this is our world, and it ain't going away anytime soon. And I actually look at this every morning, and I look inside. I don't see anything evil inside of here. Do you? The devil doesn't live in here. So to me, this is technology. This isn't an evil entity to be avoided. It's a device that needs to have the right attitude and behavior so you use it correctly. This is all about attitudes. This isn't exercise physiology. This isn't neurophysiology. This is simply getting the right attitude to use this the right amount. In the end of the day, there's a lot of attraction there, isn't there? And that's part of the problem in society, resulting in almost all our kids in society, and I don't know here, but I do know in Stockholm, the rest of Canada, the rest of the world, free play has gone the way of the dinosaur. Kids don't do free play anymore. How much free play do they do? It's extinct almost. In certain places we still see it, but it's rare. Many playgrounds, unless you have really nice playgrounds and good ones, don't get used. We see in schools in Canada and the United States, we put $60,000, $70,000 play structures up and nobody uses them. You get a nicer parkour-esque one, it works, but not always. So we now study why are some playgrounds used as opposed to why are some playgrounds never used. So for us, it's important because if you don't have free play, your brain doesn't develop as well, we guess, no science on that, as well as a person who does have free play. And I'll show you something that in a second. In one generation, in Canada and the United States, we've lost walking to school. My dad was a Dutch guy, as I told you. He walked during the war through minefields to school. As a Canadian, I walked through 6 feet deep snow to school barefoot. My son and daughter, 23 and 25 years of age now, I drove to school. I drove them to school because I'm a just-in-time dad in a zero-time world. I'm not afraid of the white van, but I go poop, 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 poop. When I went through university, somebody told me that I'd have 4-day work weeks. Now I have 7-day work weeks. Way to go, culture. But at the end of the day, kids have lost in Canada, United States, 2,000 steps a day average walking to school. They don't walk to school anymore. And as a result of that, they lose energy. And that's not a good thing overall. And finally, my mother used to say to me, hey, Dean, I came home after school at 3:30, and my mom would say, leave the house and don't come back until the streetlights come on. And she said, I was a free-range chicken. I was able to go around the world and my world around me and explore my movement skills, hopping fences, the things we do in the real world. Now, this guy wrote this book, Last Child in the Woods. And in 2008, he basically said our kids are suffering from nature deficit disorder. And that's important, too, from an ecological point of view. But it's also important because you don't learn how to move in space in varying conditions. It's all sanitized movement. So in Canada, as a result of our culture, this is what we see. This is measured obesity in Canada from 1972 Munich Olympics till now. We've gone from 9% obesity rates to 28% now. And you see it's red and blue in that diagram. In Canada, we have we have 4 political parties, but 2 that ever make it to the top. We have Liberals and Conservatives. And we toggle, as Canadians do, we go Liberal, Conservative, Liberal, Conservative. But you'll notice no government has made a dent in that trajectory. I need governments to invest in us because we are really health. Sport, recreation, and education are health. The other guys are health care. If you're ill, we'll fix you. But we are the people who need to be funded in primary prevention to take this, which took 45 years. How long will it take to bring it back? 100 years? How long? That's it. Just think about that to turn it back to 9%. What are you doing to do that in your culture? I have to be honest about stuff. And I am a very big proponent of high performance sport, but I'm also a big proponent of massive participation. They're 2 different things. Getting medals, one thing. For a country, cool. Getting everybody active, also cool. Do they relate? Maybe. If you look at the graph on the left-hand side, you'll notice that what's critical to see there is I plotted obesity in circles again. That's the same graph you saw. But I've also plotted Canadian medal count from Munich Olympics to 2014 London Olympics. And you'll see in the squares, our medals have gone up and up and up when I added the Winter and Summer Olympics. Way to go, Canada. We went up to 45 medals. That's pretty cool. But you'll notice that I plotted on the right-hand side here the relationship between medals and obesity. It's perfect. In science, you can't get better graph than that. So what does that mean? Make more Canadians obese, get more medals? Well, absolutely not. That's not even scientific thinking. But what is true, that if every Canadian comes back with a medal around their neck, and they say to the population, I'm doing this to inspire Canadians to become physically active. That can't be true, because we've been doing better and better and better. And if every Canadian with medals coming back saying, get active, well, they don't. They get better at watching. We are the greatest spectator society in the face of the planet. But what does Olympic medals do for Canada? It inspires more Olympians. But it doesn't inspire activity. If you believe that it does, please explain the graph on the right to me. I can't explain it. It's disturbing. But it's not sports problem. It's culture, valuing movement. Now, I normally don't show this graph, but I'm going to show it to you. On the top graph, because we get asked by our government, are we doing better at the Olympics? So on the top graph, what I've got is from 1960, Tokyo Olympics, till now, the number of medals that Canada has won expressed relative to the number of medals that are actually given out at the Games. In Tokyo, there's 450 medals given. In Rio, 918. In Tokyo, there'll be over 1,000. So we only, as Canadians, see the red line. Since 1988 till now, we always get 2% of the medals. We actually haven't ever improved. Maybe relative from Tokyo till 1970, we improved. And that's because more and more girls went to the Olympics. In Tokyo, there were 20% of the participants were female. Now it's 45. So we have a 3-to-1 ratio of women winning medals to men in Canada, and I suspect it's the same here. But we never have improved. We stay always at 2% of the medals. We get our fair share. And you'll see the one medal count that's really high there, that's when the Russians didn't come. We got 44 medals because they gave us some opportunity. Well, they didn't, half of them didn't come either this Olympics, and we scored 22 medals. Oops. So that's harsh reality in my world of high performance sport, right? And I have to tell my ministers, we're not doing better, but we're keeping our own. Now the bottom line's a really interesting one for you. I've plotted out all the top 29 countries at the Rio Olympics. And I've plotted how many medals they got versus how much their country makes, their gross domestic product, how rich they are. There's almost a perfect relationship between how much your country makes and how many medals you get. Now, is that a model for investment in the sport? Oh yeah, 100%. The more money you put in strategically, the more money you get out, the more medals you get. So, do you want more medals? Or do you want more participation? We need a lot of money to fix this problem. We need a lot of money. And so to me, part of it is the fact that our kids are all bubble wrapped, aren't they? We're all helicopter parents and we bubble wrap our kids so they never get injured. And if they never experience life in reality, how do they make their own decisions? How do they choose the right things? This is a British set of data here. See the big area A? That was in 1919. And what you can see in that graph is that the person, when they were 8 years old, was allowed to roam the countryside over almost 10 kilometers of roaming range. The chicken could walk around everywhere. When that kid, the kid of the great-grandfather, area B, when they were 8 years old in 1950, they were only allowed to move 1.6 kilometers. When their kid, the mother at the top, was 8 years old, she was only allowed to move around the community 800 meters. Her son, Ed, in 2007, never moved more than 300 meters away from his house without being transported by a vehicle. In 88 years, there was a 10-kilometer reduction in free-range behavior. That's going to be true almost everywhere. That's a scary proposition in terms of what does that mean in terms of honing your motor skills, having good movement skills, ability to read the environment. Well, I'm really good at going up and down stairs to get to the subway. Okay. And those stairs are pretty clean, etc. So as a result of that, in almost every country in the world, if you look at the top data, under the age of 12, prepubescent children, only 50% of boys meet the physical activity criteria, which is 60 minutes of huffing puffing a day. For us, it's 30 minutes 5 times a week, minimum. The minimum for kids is 60 minutes every day. Now, only 48% of boys make that mark. And very inappropriately, 34% of girls do. And that's not, there's no major sex differences under that age. That's a gender mistreatment. Sex is my chromosomes and my biology. Gender is how you treat me. So that's a gender mistreatment problem, and I'm going to show you why that occurs, because we now know, because of physical literacy, what causes that. Girls drop from 34% down to 3% activity levels after puberty. 3%. That's a 10 times reduction. Boys actually drop a greater percentage, 40% drop. But they go to 11%. And by the time you're my age in Canada, United States, between 3 and 5% of adults actually meet the physical activity criteria. That's 95% at risk of 42 different diseases. Osteoporosis, type 2 diabetes, cancer, you name it. That's a major issue. Our healthcare costs in Canada are going through the roof. That means that gobbles up the budget that we could have been using to do prevention. So somebody has to be bold and actually take the prevention step. It's not a nice step, it's painful. Because how do you service everybody? Finland has a base tax rate of roughly 60%. Canada, our base tax rate is 30%. I'm not against my Prime Minister saying, double taxes. Do you know how long it'll last? He'll be kicked out instantly. But that's what he needs to do. As a group, if you start working with sport really well and education, we collectively, without any money, just being smarter about acting together, probably can make a good dent. But without money, it'd be hard. We need to act better with the schools, better with leisure, better with health, communicate with them directly to actually make this effect. That data is very scary. And I have a Manitoba slide on there. That's my daughter, actually. I show that slide to you because, in fact, my daughter has the best physical education system almost in the world in Manitoba, where I live. We have 869 schools in the province that I live in. Almost 90% of them have phys ed specialist teachers. 90%. We have almost daily physical education where I live. And we have a great curriculum. And everybody in Canada looks at my province saying, we need that. But during that time, and oh, by the way, mandatory phys ed, kindergarten to grade 12, the only province in Canada. Mandatory. No difference in physical activity rates between our province, children, and anywhere else. Matter of fact, in just a couple of years, our children dropped 16% activity with the best phys ed system in North America. The reason why? Phys ed is not valued. Movement is not valued. Therefore, how can it take effect? It's an ineffective vaccine. It's not a vaccine, is the point. It takes a community to raise a physically illiterate child, not just a phys ed class. And that's going to be a vital story. Here's some data from my lab. The top 7 slides are very inactive people, and the people below are matched people who actually meet the physical activity criteria. What do you see between the bones on the top? That's 7 different people, and the bones on the bottom. You don't need to be a scientist. You can see that the bones on top have thin walls. They've been eaten from the inside out. That's called endosteal resorption. And the bones, if you do a Gestalt view of it, they'll look circular on top, right? And on the bottom, they kind of got like a heart shape. You see that? Now, you make a good house with good bricks and good architecture. You don't just make a good house out of good bricks. You need good architecture. Bones need high quality. The only way to get the good bones in the bottom is physical activity. And the bones in the top, I'm going to tell you right now, are irrecoverable. The average age here is around 21 years of age. And the bones in the top, 0 ability to recover. There's no drug, there's no exercise you can do to fix those bones. They're done for life. We've never been able to do it in years and years. This is Canada right now, and this is the gloom story, and then I'll show you the good stuff. Canada's population is 35 million, 36 million right now, and the blue is basically the percentage of people at each age, not the percentage, the total numbers. So there's about 400,000 people from 20 at each age segment in blue. The red is the number of people with type 2 diabetes, which is lack of exercise and poor nutrition caused. National Institute of Health says 90% of type 2 diabetes is repaired through exercise. 90%. So it's reversible, preventable. And yet 10% of our population in Canada, United States, the red, is that. I'm going to show you 2069, 2063, because my son turned 69. I don't want my son's world, when he's finished with it, to be the world I've left him. That's why I do this. I feel guilty. So in the end of the day, I'll show you what happens modeling this forward. It'll be true here as well. There's the population of Canada. Many more old people. Lots more old people. But now the population will have 30% of type 2 diabetes. You want to feel pressure? You should feel pressure. We can't not change. And you know what? Scientists, we can only do so much. This is a leap of faith, guys. We're all going downhill. I just showed you. We know we're going to hit a brick wall, and we're choosing to go there. Einstein said if you do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again, and you expect a different result, you're actually insane. Hello, insanity. It's a leap of faith. Your politicians, your minister is now a sport minister and a health minister. That's cool. A huge opportunity for you. I've never been in a country where that's true. Ever. Tying sport to health, dangerous, but also beneficial, right? You want to think about that. Because there's the prevention problem, and then there's Olympic medals. 2 different things. I get it. They don't get that. You need to convince them that both are needed. Because they're going to focus on one or the other. Shame on you. But we need to take a leap of faith. I can't do the science for you. We have to have the right decision making Without, I mean, there'll be evidence, but you have to make the right decision. That's all it is. Now, one of the things that physical literacy has done, which you wouldn't know about yet, is that we now have a term which we use. Everybody uses the word durability. In Swedish, what does durability mean? What's the term for durability in Swedish? Being durable. The ability to endure life. That things won't wear out. Is that okay? So here's a word. So we don't do this in sport very well or in culture. We need to make people durable by design, not by chance. We don't want people just by chance hoping that they can have a long sporting career. We want to do it purposefully. I don't want you to get hurt at work and hurt your back. We want to do it purposefully. So what physical literacy has done for us, it's created this new concept called durability by design. And that's been a really big one for us because it's a positive word, isn't it? Don't you want your kids to be durable? Yeah, just like their genes. But it's positive and it includes mental and physical. It's a positive word. It's not injury prevention, that's fear. That's fear. Durability is better mental health, better physical health. And it includes all the things on the right. So it's an encompassing word. So where does physical literacy sit in? Canada, definitely the lead country in the world on physical literacy for a variety of reasons. I don't know why, what really caused that. But when Margaret Whitehead, who's from England, reintroduced the term physical literacy in the late 2000s, the Canadians saw her Bic lighter across the pond and said, hey, we're like moths. We'll be attracted to your Bic lighter. And we came and said, and now our entire sports system is based on physical literacy and long-term athlete development. It's mandated by the Canadian sport policy. Every single sport has to have a full LTAD model from federal to provincial, district to club, and a full model based on physical literacy development, mandated. All our high-performance centers use it because we know that the better athletes are the ones that are more diverse in movements, not specialized like in hockey. Over-specialization is dangerous in a whole bunch of ways, mentally and physically. So in the end of the day, our physical health education group has adopted the term nationally. Every single educator has adopted the term. Our Canadian Parks and Rec Association has adopted it. Our banks have adopted the term because they see the need to have the population healthy. They funded tons of money into that, saying, we believe that people need to be healthy, not knowledgeable, but healthy and knowledgeable. So in the end of the day, you can see tons of people have adopted it. And even the Americans have now adopted it in a significant way. And where it fits in the Canadian Sport for Life model of LTAD, this rectangle, has been around for a decade. That's it. LTAD is not that long in the history of the world. It's a bit of an experiment, but you know what was cool about sport? Sport said, if you look at that graph, and yours is similar, many countries in the world are similar. The Americans call it the athlete development model. New Zealand's got it, everybody's got a version of it now. But we say, hey, it's not just about train to win athletes, train to compete athletes. Those are the people at the Olympics. That's only, for Canada, at Sochi, we only had 221 people there. There's 35 million. So the little triangle on the left-hand side, it's way too big. It should be like, on this graph, this triangle, which is our very high-end athletes, should be this big. It's the rest of the population that we need both. And we filter out kids really quick, don't we? If they're not good into that path, they drop sport really quickly. And I know your data here, it's the same as Canada's. Sport participation rates after 12, right into the tank. I'm going to show you why that might be true, but we believe that if you give kids down here high levels of physical literacy, they can choose whatever they want. I'll give you an example. If you're a hockey player, and all you do is hockey from 5 years of age, very common in Canada, and then hockey stops at 20, you lose your identity. That's a psychological thing. You have no identity. And you know what you do? You talk to your friend alcohol a lot. You become a boozer, abusing male. You lose your identity. We're all about creating identities for people, but robust identities, that if they're in basketball and they leave basketball for the right reasons, let's get them into rugby. They leave rugby, let's get them into cross-country skiing. your job is not so much to create the individual silos that we live in, gymnastics, blah, blah, blah. But if a kid leaves this silo, how do we get them into the other? What are you doing in this office to create physical literacy trajectory management? My daughter dropped out of dance at 16. I was a dance dad. 26 hours a week of putting false eyelashes on, putting buns in hair, sewing ribbons onto dance shoes. I'm good at that. But my daughter left at 16. Why? Because her two friends left this dance studio. She left. Fun and friendships, even at the Olympic level, are the #1 reason why people stay in sport. What are you doing about fun and friendship? That's physical literacy. Social interaction is the most valuable thing we have. This is a form of social interaction. The more meaningful one is this one, what I'm doing right now. So in the end of the day, we believe physical literacy is across the lifespan. How do you use physical literacy to keep kids in the field and not lose their identities by making them diverse? In Swim Canada, we changed our competition structure, and we did very well at Rio because of it. Our competition structure said, nobody will be a specialist swimmer until over 15. You must do all strokes at every meet. A diverse aquatic literacy for every person. Then they'd go specialist. We did very well by that. And so many sports are changing their competition structures based on this thinking. Not everybody's done it yet. Hockey's still hockey. Hard to work with those guys, but I have to. But they're realizing it now because we never had Sweden competing against us in the past. We're afraid. We're going, what? Who are these Finnish players? What's what? So it's interesting for us to lose ground as Canadians in a sport that we see as ours. And in the end of the day, it goes, they're realizing now their over-specialization model isn't working. And so, oops, how do we change that? In some sports, I don't know. So for us, LTAD2, you should type, if you haven't downloaded it, LTAD 2.0, download it. We released it last year. And these are our top 10 items. You'll notice the #1 is physical literacy. We now believe very strongly, our group of Sport for Life people in Canada, that physical literacy is everything. I mean, there's more things than that. And we're really, really pushing that hard from a sporting perspective. So what is it? Here's the big one for this. If you take a look at this, guys, if you believe in reading and writing, if you know your ABCs, and you need to know A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z, right? In grade 4, you don't teach A, B, C, D, E, F, G. What would happen? They can't participate in life. Well, what are the A, B, C, D, E, F, Gs to Zs of movement? What should every Swedish kid at 12 be able to do? Well, in my opinion, they better be able to hop, jump, leap, throw, catch, kick, strike something like with an axe or a bat or a cricket stick. If you don't have these fundamental land-based skills, how do you participate? Well, there's ice literacy, there's snow literacy, there's aquatic literacy, but those are all add-ons. But every person needs to work here on a physical space. So everybody needs land-based movement skills. So if you don't know your 1, 2, 3s, the basics, you can't do fractions, you can't do equations, and then you can't jump from space funded by Red Bull. Every Canadian kid and Swedish kid should be able to jump from space, right? Into the future. I'm joking because many people in Canada say every kid should play hockey. I ride a horse. Every kid should have a horse? No, it's a journey, not a destination. So if you can't do your do, re, mi's, you can't do a scale, can't do a score, you can't be the best American singer on the face of the planet, Justin Bieber. He's a Canadian, but we don't like him because he drinks a lot and drives drunk. But, I was on camera. Nonetheless, ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, do, re, mi's. What are the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s of physical literacy? They're what movements do you have competency at? That's the basis, but that's not it. It's not just about teaching this. That's form. Function is bigger than just form. So that if you don't have movement vocabulary, you can't do sequences. You can't do tasks, like the pas de chat from Swan Lake. It's not, or lifting an object at work and not hurting your back, or walking down an icy street. So in the end of the day, physical literacy, if you don't deliver movement vocabulary to every kid, stop right there. If you don't deliver ABC, stop right there. If you don't deliver 1, 2, 3, stop. Our phys ed system, our education system, should be delivering this. We, as a community, can raise people who are physically literate by giving them more movement vocabulary. Lego had it right, didn't they? Lego says, if you're over 99, you can't be creative. It says it right there. They must know. And if you're under the age of 4, you choke on the bits of creativity. I get it. You choke on those things. But this is an interesting model to think about in terms of our world. Because if every kid in our world, you can't buy this kid anymore. If you go to the Lego store here, you can't buy this kid. You know what you buy? You buy that. A paint by numbers Lego kit. Tell me what to do. Think about your coaching now. Every single child in coaching going, tell me what to do. I don't have to make decisions. Tell me what to do. How are you developing decision-making ability in the child if you're always telling them what to do? And they have no free play, how do they discover? How do they learn about their own bodies? Tell me what to do. Why are parents watching their kids all the time? So weird, right? But in the end of the day, it's a good model because if you look at this right here, whoops. If you gave that to at a birthday party to a 5-year-old, 4 Lego pieces, do you think they'd be happy? No, they wouldn't be happy. What can I make out of that? They'd be gracious. Thank you. Flush. What would you do with what? If you only have 4 movement skills, what can you do? If you only have 4 movement skills, what can you do? I want every Canadian kid to have that many Lego bits? No. That many Lego bits? No. That many? What? But not everybody needs the eyelashes. Not everybody needs to be able to cross-country ski. I was the former chairman of the board Biathlon Canada. So I can shoot and ski really well. But in the end of the day, does everybody need to own a rifle in Canada? No. Do I want everybody to own a rifle in Canada? No. Do I want lots more biathlon participation? Absolutely. But do you want to go to biathlon? Maybe not. But if you don't have the basics, how do you ever grow and decide what you want to do? So if you only have a few Lego pieces, if you're now a skater and all you have is ice-based literacy, that's all you got. You lose that, you lose your identity. So every child gets like this so they can decide. Now that's the basics. So you need to know that's the same thing I just said. We now have an International Physical Literacy Association. It's 2 years old. We had birthday cake twice. That's new, right? Literacy has been around for 100 years. UNESCO has been pushing, and other agencies, since 1900. Canada, United States, England. 100 years of making people read and write. We're probably in year 6 or 7 for physical literacy. It's a big campaign, so roll up your sleeves. It's going to be a while. You do need to download Canada's consensus statement. We're the only country with a consensus statement on physical literacy, of which 17 countries have adopted. It's called the Vancouver Declaration. It's 2 pages. Download it. Read it. The key about it is it has a definition by consensus. Consensus doesn't mean scientific, but it is a definition 17 countries accept. And what it says in here is that it's not just about physical competence. You've got a good word in Swedish for that. Physical literacy is also about psychology, motivation and confidence in particular. How do you deliver confidence to your children? How do you deal with audience effect? Because female-only fitness facilities should not exist. They exist from the data I'm about to show you. They're ridiculous things. Otherwise, I'm going to have math-only clubs for boys. And I'll be fired if I actually mean that. It's inappropriate, but we'll need it for 100 years. Segregation in society is a scary thing. Because then you're basically saying, well, what else are we going to segregate on? So in the end of the day, what's important from this, and you can read it on your own, is not just about physical things. It's about psychological and social things. Physical literacy is bigger than just delivering fundamental movement skills. That's a little piece of it. So let's just get to that. It has multiple domains. Physical competence, which is motor competence in the A to Z's of movement, and it also including water, land, air, ice, snow, indoor, outdoor. Psychological components, and social components, and behavioral outcomes. It is not fitness. Physical literacy helps you choose what activities you like. If you're motivated and confident to do it, you participate. If you participate, you get fit, mentally and physically. Fitness is an outcome. Physical activity is an outcome. Physical literacy is the foundational blocks of those two things. The Americans wrote a thing called the Physical Literacy in the United States. They're American, so they're different than our cultures in Sweden and Canada. But they have a top 10 list for every sector. You can download it, Project Play. When I went down to Aspen, Colorado with Project Play, I sat there as the only Canadian in the audience, big wigs there, and I said, if you don't like what I'm saying, I'm a Dutch guy. If you like what I'm saying, as a Canadian, steal it and make it American. And they go, yeah, that's what we do. And I said, okay, good. And they laughed, and now they've adopted it. That was the trick I applied. But in the end of the day, their model is very similar to the Canadian model. Matter of fact, they launched it after us to align with us. So alignment between the major countries, Sweden, Holland, Wales, New Zealand, Australia, is happening. Very strong alignment between those countries in terms of what we believe. So much so, and you need your sport health minister to get up and say this. This is the US Surgeon General. And after reading the documents we provided to him, he decided to make a public statement using physical literacy. The First Lady just did it a few weeks ago when we were in Washington with her. And he said, no matter how many sidewalks we build, no matter how many parks we construct, no matter how we urge people to eat well and exercise regularly, they won't do it unless they have the ability, competence, the confidence, psychological, and motivation or desire and happiness. And that's what physical literacy is, those three words. So we say very nicely, and I'm going to skip through this one, that's the nutshell. Give kids confidence, they get confident, they get motivation. This is a 33-year-old top parkour woman in the world. She's also a stunt woman as well. And she's also a circus performer as well. But in the end of the day, she exemplifies these three things. So if you think about these in terms of a cycle, and I'm going to go through this slide right here. If you teach kids movement vocabulary, fundamental movement skills, cool. But you need to go beyond that to get physical literacy through the cauldron. You need to teach awareness. This is called kinesthesia. How are kids aware of their own body in space? What are you doing to develop that? I know that I'm 4 meters away from you. If you toss me something, I can catch it. That's spatial awareness. What are you doing if I need to avoid collision? How are you teaching collision avoidance? How are you teaching stumble recovery? Are you just doing it by chance or by design? We need to do that. Every coach is really good at lesson plans, teaching performance-related movements. But the other stuff is by chance. We can't do that anymore because we don't free play and learn how to stumble recover. Therefore, we need to give it purposely. Selection. How are you allowing kids to select the movements as opposed to telling them what to do? They need to explore that, right? How are you helping them sequence movements? Putting movements together in different ways. If you're doing a layup in basketball and being pushed at the same time, that takes practice to learn how to land from a leap after being pushed. That's a progression. If you just teach layups on an empty basket without pressure, you're not doing physical literacy. That's old school. And pickup games of basketball are rare nowadays. Oops. So they don't learn that. Comprehension. You need to know the words of movement. This is a hop. This is a jump. This is a leap. Kids don't know that. So if you don't know the words of movement and you say something as a coach to them, they go, deer in headlights. Or they do the wrong movement. If they do the wrong movement, they get hurt. In the circus world where I work, you do the wrong thing, you die. Serious consequences. So you need to make sure if you're delivering physical literacy that kids understand the words of movement. They also need to be confident. They also need to be motivated. I'll talk about that in a second. Motor competence, critical. Symmetry. I need to be able to cut right. I need to be able to cut left. If you're not symmetrical in that, poor performance. If I'm symmetrical in it, I don't get injuries and better performance. Yes. So in the end of the day, it's also finally all the environments. Land, air, ice, snow, water, indoor, outdoor. But it's also social environments. And this is a big one. I worked with a Great Britain bobsled coach on this. I almost had to turn in my passport because of that. But in the end of the day, if you're in sport, you perform in front of audiences. If you're in performance arts, you perform for audiences. The difference is nothing. Because everybody needs to feel comfortable moving in front of another person, and we don't deliver that. You have to help people learn how to move in front of others. That's physical literacy. You have to feel comfortable moving. And right now, girls lose their physical activity levels. Now watch this. Movement vocabulary, fundamental movement skills, feeds into this and outspits physical literacy. It becomes the gateway for physical activity. Way to go. If you choose to participate because you're motivated and confident and happy with physical activity, you get fitness. You can't get fitness by a badge. It's hard work. Mental and physical fitness. Never separate them anymore. Never separate them anymore. They are perfectly linked. We create, through sport, quality sport experiences create positive mental and physical health. Don't just talk about strength, endurance, body composition, flexibility, and cardiovascular. Talk about mental health, anxiety. If you don't participate socially in moving in front of each other, you're socially inhibited. Social inhibition is not a good thing in culture. Fitness is not physical literacy. Physical activity is not physical literacy. They're different constructs. Finally, you want to make a person durable? We've tried for years making people stronger. It didn't work. And only when we started adding physical literacy and fitness together did we reduce injuries. Girls pop their knees in basketball and soccer 6 times to every 1 boy. When we applied physical literacy, we actually reduce it to 1.5 to 1. 14 studies showing that when you deliver movement competence to the girls at the level they need to be at, then all of a sudden their knees don't pop. Or pops at the same rate as the boys. And if you get hit, of course, it pops. But that's a big deal. 6 to 1 was a gendered problem. 1.5 to 1 is the sex difference. Wider hips and a menstrual cycle. But in the end of the day, that is not the cause. The primary cause is lack of motor competence in cutting right to left. What are you doing to develop right and left cutting competence in women? Specifically, planned. So in the end of the day, this is the story. You get this slide. This is what a quality physical literacy experience is, of which coaching can provide. Phys ed can provide. Recreation can provide. Parents can provide. This list. This is really just the slide previous. You can read that on your own. If you actually look at this slide right here, we believe that you can deliver quality physical literacy experiences in recreation, sport, performance arts, rehabilitation. As a scientist, I can measure these things. But really all I care about, and this is a big cell, guys. The big cell is the following. See these 2 things right here? It's called eudaimonia. Aristotelian thinking. Really good Aristotelian scientist who knows about this is in University of Limerick. His name is Stephen Caldwell. But in the end of the day, all I care about for my kids is, are you participating in life? Are you doing something meaningful? Every parent goes, that's what I want. Then the second thing I want is their kid to thrive and flourish. You give quality sport experiences, you know what that means? You're giving a quality physical literacy experience, which means that they will thrive and they can participate in life. But if we don't deliver quality physical literacy experiences, they won't thrive. They won't participate. That's what we're all suffering from. So in the end of the day, this is a nice elevator speech once again, but that's the model we use in my lab to understand this. So I want to equip every kid. Remember, they have all different trajectories. You're born, you go in different ways. They get injured, they get married. They get married, they don't become active. What's up with that? I have kids, they don't become active. So how do you help people manage their physical literacy trajectories? We all work in silos right now. We need to get rid of that so we can help people go from, if you drop out of basketball for the right reasons, where are you going next? My daughter left dance. You know where she went? She went to the gym. I bought her Lululemon, taught her every machine. She loved it. Then she left it. She then went to ultimate, frisbee, and then now she's back to outdoor activity. That was her physical literacy journey. I don't really think if somebody drops out of a sport, I don't go, so what? If they drop out for the wrong reasons, different. But if you drop out for the right reasons, how are we managing them to get back onto another path? Just think about that. We have the information. Why don't we communicate? When the person leaves, you don't yell at them. Oh, I didn't yell at my daughter saying, $6,000 a year is spending on your outfits and now you're not doing it anymore? What a waste. That's what people think. But the answer is, hey, Allie, where do you want to go next? Was it a great experience? Yes, it was. And I say, thank you for letting me learn how to put buttons in girls. I have to thank you for that. But here's the thing. It takes a community to raise a physically literate child. All of these people participate in that. Physically literate people live in physical literacy enriched communities. We don't have those anymore. We're part of that solution, right? We're that part. You work between these two parts. Critical. That's a critical linkage to make actual education sport work really well. Magical. Not done. Imagine how we could manage kids' trajectories then. It'd be a wonderful thing. We don't even have agreements in almost every country. We've got good examples in Canada where it's working. We have some schools that have 100% intramural physical activity opportunities for kids. 3:30 till 8 o'clock at night, 100% of the kids can participate in physical activity. But it's not run by the phys ed teacher, it's run by recreation, sport, and performance arts people. But that's a complete paradigm shift away from interscholastic sport. But you can still have interscholastic sport and intramural programming. But it takes work. It's not easy to change. It's hard to do. But all of these people have to be around the table. Physical literacy gets health at the table. Physical literacy gets early childhood educators at the table. Physical literacy even gets the justice people there. You mean this will help from preventing gang activity? Yes, it will. So in the end of the day, this is a very important concept. We have 3 measurement tools for physical literacy now in Canada. The world 0, Canada 3. Passport for Life, which is an educational tool for formative assessment in physical education from grade 3 to 12. The play tools, which is both for program evaluation. Are your programs changing kids or are they not? You need to know that. Also a research tool and Canadian Assessment of Physical Literacy, which is a surveillance tool. What's the population looking like? See these 3 right here? I'm going to show you one of them. There's a bunch of tools and you can look it up. You can just type in physical literacy assessment for youth, play tools. You'll get all downloadable, all free, all well researched. But the studies are just coming out. They measure physical competence, psychological components, behavioral components. They measure what the construct is. You can't just measure motor competence. You have to measure these other psychological things too. And these are all the tools, but I'm going to show you some results. That's that slide I showed you before. If you give kids competence, they get confident, they get motivated and happy, then they participate more, positive. If you snip this anywhere, you mess the kid up. Possible to recover. I'm not going to show you that bit, but we'll do it here. So we have tools that measure the reality of physical literacy, and then we also have tools that measure what does the parent think about the kid? What does the coach think about the kid? What does the kid think about themselves? Because you need to know that. Because if there's any mismatch, you can have a parent go, my kid's going to be the next superstar in tennis. The kid goes, I really like riding horses. The coach goes, I've got this great swim program. This is a good athlete. Get into my swim program. You understand that? If you don't measure perceptions, you don't know how to deal with the barriers and facilitators. I'm not saying you have to jump on this right away, but all of these tools measure this cycle. And I'm going to show you some results. In Manitoba, it says, and here remember A to Z, you can download this. This is the phys ed curriculum in Manitoba. See these skills right here? See these skills? That's A to Z of movement. It's not perfect. We could disagree. Should you be able to run a square? Run there and back? Sure. Should be able to throw, catch? Yeah. Strike with a stick? We can dicker on this. But in the end of the day, in Manitoba, it says, every kid in grade 4 will be competent in these skills by grade 4. Only 3% actually do. 3%. Because we don't deliver the curriculum. But if you give these Lego blocks, you can then participate. If you don't give the Lego blocks, shut the door. So we believe in this cycle very strongly. So here's the data. Now here's really good stuff for you to see. It's going to be true here, Canada, United States. Watch this. Boys are in blue, girls are in green. By age 8 in Canada, this is 6,000 kids. We're now at 30,000 kids measured. The graph is always the same. We've been able to change it with studies, but here's what happens. By age 8, you can see boys are way better than girls at overhand throwing. That should not occur. The curriculum says the same. And there should be no difference between boys and girls lest you start to say girls shouldn't read. It's not appropriate. The curriculum says everybody will have the same form and function up to age 12. After you get testosterone, you can throw further, but you'll throw the same. You'll have the same throwing form, but throw different distances. That's okay. But the form should be identical. And it's the competence is breaking in girls at age 8. And it stays that way through life. We measure kicking, the same thing happens. Kicking, boys are way better than girls. They're still not perfect, the boys. They're not reaching the expectation. But the girls are way behind the boys at age 8. We measure all 18 skills. Watch this, guys. If the boys are better than the girls, the bars are this way. If the girls are better than the boys, it's that way. What do you see? Boys have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 different skills that they're better than at the girls, when the answer should be 0. The girls are better at skipping. Not because they're girls, because everybody should have these movement capacities. Everybody. There should be no difference. That means the doors are open for boys. 1 in 3 women die from heart attack and stroke in Canada because at age 8, we don't deliver the competence the same way. And when we measure their confidence, here's some more. Look at this. When the boys are better than the girls in hand and foot movement skills, it's a positive value. There's no negatives there. Boys are 2.7% better in grade 3 than girls. By grade 4, it's significant, 3.5%. 7.7% in grade 8, and 16% difference by grade 12. That's a massive shut the door on participation in young women. It's a gender mistreatment. It is a crime, and yet we do it. In the end of the day, it's true for locomotor and balance skills as well. And here's an entire town. This is an entire town that we measured with these tools. This is movement vocabulary in a vertical axis. If you have no movement skills, no Lego blocks, you're at 0. 11 girls had no movement skills of this list, out of an entire town. 1 girl had all 17, and only 2 boys. So the answer should be everybody's there. We've got a Christmas tree this way. It should be the Christmas tree that way. That's part of our job, to deliver these movement competences, because if you don't have these movement competences, which is a small part of physical literacy, how can you participate? And if you only have a few of them, that's not good either. So here's some more data. This is really good, very recent data. The more motor competence you have, high motor competence, low motor competence, this is in grade 8 kids. Low motor competence, you don't walk a lot. High motor competence, you walk a lot more. We needed that data to show that if you help kids get movement skills, they'll move more. This is the only data in the world that shows it like this. Right now, we're just publishing it right now because it's so exciting to say, yay, more movement skills, more movement. Yay. Sounds simple, right? But it isn't that simple. In the end of the day, the kids should be up here, by the way, at 16,000 steps a day. The target for us is 10 to 12. The target for kids is 14 to 16,000. So, failure. It also means the more motor competence, the faster you run. We didn't have that data either. That's beautiful. That's sprint speed, guys. That's perfect. It's like, well, that makes sense. How long has Usain Bolt been running? From 1 to 30 years of age. He's still doing all his drills. He still doesn't run symmetrically. But he's highly proficient. In grade 5, every kid should be able to run like this, reciprocal arms and reciprocal legs. When they're 1 and they start running around like this, drunken little maniacs, right? But I'm pretty sure you don't come beside your 2-year-old who runs and go, reciprocal arms. You let them naturally do it while they play. But that's good. Here's some more important data. I'm not going to show you that one. I'm not going to show you that one. This is the scary stuff. Psychology. Confidence and activity. Ask kid, how confident are you do things? This is, again, 6,000 kids. Watch this. At age 8, right here, confidence improves up to age 8. Remember what happens at age 8? Girls' competence drops. 1 year later, their confidence to perform activity drops. Boys stay the same. You break competence, you'll lose confidence. Watch this one. This is the scary, scary one. Then everybody believes that failure is to be avoided, as opposed to failure is part of success. I can do a lesson plan with you guys right now. You all fail miserably and laugh about it, but start to succeed. That's what you want. You want to develop confidence. Confidence is built on a fun and challenging pathway mixed with successes and failures. And this last Olympics, if you watch the girls doing gymnastics, when they fail, they no longer went like this. Because we're beginning to realize self-efficacy, confidence is critical to future success. And there's pretty good literature on that. How are you developing confidence? How are you handling failure management? That's part of physical literacy. Now here's the bad data. I believe that being physically active makes me happier. This is 14,000 Canadian kids answer this. It's ages 4 to 20, but I only show you 5 to 13 because it shows the point. 5-year-olds who answer this question go, yeah, I love activity. You can't stop the little guys. At 6, they simmer down, thank goodness. Parents would go crazy without that simmering down. But they stay the same, boys and girls. At age 8, what happens? Competence changes. Age 9, girls' confidence tanks. Look what happens now. At age 10 to 13, girls begin to associate unhappiness with physical activity. Once you go below number 3 here, those two values, the average girl in Canada is saying, I do no longer get happiness from being physically active. Did I just prove to you this graph? Put word happiness there too. Fun, enjoyment. It's not about creating smiles. It's about creating a level of challenge for every person in the room. Every level of ability needs a challenge. Otherwise, see ya. If you don't feel comfortable moving in front of another, you're not going to move in front of another person. Social inhibition needs to be handled. In the end of the day, this is what a quality physical literacy experience does. This is what quality sport does. Now we need to tell parents, look for quality sport, because quality sport is a quality physical literacy experience. And if it does that, creates this cycle, which makes people durable and healthy, physically and mentally. So that's a scary graph. We fixed it, by the way. We've done 4 or 5 interventional trials, I'm not going to talk you through this, showing that you can actually fix this in sport, in physical education, in various sectors, by doing quality physical literacy experiences in those settings. Taking care of the psychology, but not just teaching fundamental movement skills. That's okay, but you need to go FMS plus. And FMS plus is really physical literacy. So at the end of the day, we've been able to show in some pretty, look at this study right here. This is the phys ed group that we added circus instruction to. It's really just quality physical literacy experience. We've done it with other things. Look at where they start. Look at where they end. They improved by 20 points. In 14 weeks, 10%. That's huge. Better than any study in the world to date. The control group, look at the difference between boys and girls here. It gets bigger. The gap widens. Almost all sport and all physical education widens the gap. Shame on us. Notice here, the gap actually started to close, but I didn't teach the people here to close the gap. In 2 other studies, we've now taught them how to close the gap. So you can do it. It's possible to do. These are exciting things. Here's the last ones I'll finish up on. This is the 18 different movement skills. This is an entire town that we measured in Canada. On this side right here is the girls in 18 different movements. This is the boys. You can generally see the boys are better than the girls, right? In 18 movements. See this one right here? That's crossovers. Okay? People don't get taught that. If you don't teach crossovers, you can't do it. If you don't teach gallop it, you can't do it. When I'm a mountain runner, I like running down mountains. You gallop down. And you can even make sounds while you gallop and go like Monty Python. But at the end of the day, you see this right here? You want to see some evidence for LTAD? I'm going to show you evidence. We took these kids. Some went to recreation soccer taught by moms and dads. This is grade 4 kids, remember? The other kids went to developmental soccer, which had a high-quality soccer coach who was a volunteer, who knew about LTAD and physical literacy, and did quality lesson planning and their things. Same graphs now, watch this. Watch the difference. This, developmental soccer using LTAD physical literacy, see all the movement skills? The value is supposed to be 50 at that age. This is movement without purpose. A bunch of bees following a flower. Not purposeful movement. Not purposeful psychology. Purposeful movement. Yeehaw. Achieve the outcome. This is one of the only studies ever to validate LTAD thinking. Way to go. Quality sport works. In the end of the day, we really believe in this cycle. And if you deliver a challenge to everybody in fun, and they realize that failures are part of success, they feel confidence. And every kid, doggone it, should feel comfortable moving in front of others, and not be socially inhibited. So you need to progress in quality experiences, the audience effect. You can't just make a kid stand in front of another group of people and say, perform. That's a huge step. No, you come up here. I'll make you do some movements in front of people. You're going to be socially inhibited, even if you came from sport. Dancers won't. Anybody who did dancing here, they'll come up here with a smile on their face. What do you want me to do? That's what we want for everybody. But the bigger one is when we come up right here. Every kid should feel talent. Every kid in society should feel they have talent. What's your talent? I like to master things. I know I'm not going to be best in the world, but I want to master something. What is it that you master? Every kid thinks that now a medal is the only way you can be talented. It's what you want to do that makes you talented. I feel I got talent. That's important for every kid to possess. I'm not going to do the rest of this here, but if you don't participate without free play gives you ownership and creativity of movement, gives you a good brain that fires, the neurons that fire together, wire together, allows creativity in a robust nervous system. If you're creative, that means you own the movement. It's your movement. You could do your little movement your way. You own it. And if you own a movement, you know what that does? It feeds back to being motivated. What are you doing in your sessions to allow kids to learn their own movement expression? It's easy to do. You just need to do it. But in the end of the day, this is a simplistic model of that funnel diagram I had that talks about physical literacy. You can sell this to anybody. What parent, what health minister, what person on the face of the earth doesn't believe in this? But it allows us in sport to say, movement for all. It's a selling job, right? And physical literacy brings all the other people to the table. Health, recreation, leisure, education. All of these people come to the table because of physical literacy. It's not about getting sporty spice. It's sporty spice, right? Is that one of the... Yeah, that's one of the sporty spice. It's not about creating sporty spice. I want sporty spice too. But I want movement for all. And so it's a neat thing for sport to sell itself that way, right? We have been anyway. We say active for life. So we're already saying that. So let's just execute. Anyway, so that's good. Does that cover the lots for you? And there's lots more stuff here that I can do, but I'm not going to go there. Well, maybe I'll do one other one here. This is the ACL injury problem. I told you about it already. We've created a thing called movement preparation. We don't do warm-up in Canada anymore. We don't do dynamic warm-up anymore. We do movement preparation, and it makes ultimate sense. And movement preparation is a component of training to enhance performance and durability. Not FIFA 11 Plus is an injury prevention program, adopted by very few. Less than 40% of people do it because they gamble with their athletes on injuries. That's okay. I get that. But if you now say, hey, I'm going to do some physical literacy experiences called movement preparation that will make your performers better, your athletes better, and become more durable, every coach goes, yes. So in Canada, we're funded $3 million to do this. And we've created this thing, which is an interactive PDF. If you touch that, it shows you a video, but the video isn't attached to it, it's online. So it's a small document. And it shows what to do, and this is the soccer one. So the Public Health Agency of Canada, Canadian Soccer Association, FIFA, we've gotten together and say, we need to create a movement preparation for all of soccer. Interesting enough, that movement preparation enhances performance, reduces injuries in a big, big way. We now have this one for basketball, now for volleyball, upcoming for synchronized swimming, because you have to change it there, right? Certainly swimming is very different than land-based activities. But we have these movement preparation guides. It takes 19 minutes to do this. Level 1, level 2, level 3. If you have a 90-minute practice, you take 19 minutes. It develops physical literacy, develops psychological components, and the studies on this are very compelling, and this is just one of them. Did it in soccer, and 400 kids. 200 kids got it, 200 kids didn't get it. And the coaches ran it, not physios. And it did these things over here. It believed in repetition-based learning, teaching cutting, teaching stumbling, how to stumble correctly, how to avoid collision, all that stuff. And here's what it did, and here's the ACL injury rate. So I'll just go quickly here. Whoops. There was significant improvement in cardiovascular fitness, 40-meter sprint time, core strength, and lower body power. Coaches go, yeah. Better athletes. The symmetry, the cutting performance got way better. We measured it. Better performance. And the ACL injury rate went to 2.1%. In the other group, it was 7.5%. In Canada, United States, it's 5%. We halved it. I don't like saying it that way, it's too, that sounds big. This is real numbers. So if you have 400 athletes, that saves you 28 ACL injuries a year. That's pretty serious, plus you get better performance. That's all done by physical literacy. You can make them as fit as you like, but if they don't have movement competence and the skills that they know and feel apply, they get injured. And if they have better movement competence, they do better. So there's some pretty cool data. I'm open to questions, discussion, where do you want to go next, etc. Was it useful?
Oh, yeah.
Makes sense?
Yes.
Makes you feel like we're on the right direction? Good. So, questions, comments. Where do you go? What do you want to do? You get the slides. That's a lot, eh? I'm a pretty intense guy. Go ahead. Anything. What are obvious things you need to do next? Or what do you want to do?
There was a couple of questions we had from that came up from Anders. I think that you met Anders
Mm-hmm.
in Stockholm.
Yes.
And he put some questions
Mhm.
sent to us. And it was a bit about getting associations to be more versatile. How do you, if you've got a tennis club, for instance, and they're very specific, hockey, you mentioned. How do you encourage them to be more diverse, more versatile?
Great. We've done it in Canada in a bunch of places. It's not universal yet, but what the data is pretty compelling that if you want to make a champion, and certainly if you go to a club, people send their kids to learn tennis. And that's cool. You want that to happen. But you want them to be diverse in movement vocabulary as well. So what we've added to that is kind of movement preparation that helps them move in all the other different ways and embedded inside the tennis lessons as part of just normally what they do. They become more physically literate anyway as a result of that by doing these other movements. You can't go too far. You can't throw them in the pool. But in the end of the day, that's helped out a lot because the data is compelling that people who have diverse movement vocabulary, meaning participate in multiple sports at a good level, actually show higher ability to become international stars. If you compare, there's a German study that compared international to national team players. The differences were 3. 1, the number of sports they played. 2, how young they started. And 3, that they progressed in training intensity through life. So if you go to the tennis coach and a tennis club and you say, hey, why don't we add movement preparation and physical literacy elements to your session, you're going to get better tennis players in the end. And they'll be more versatile in what they do, they'll get less injury, etc. And then they just need to go, well, what does that look like? And then we run a workshop on it and go, oh, that's not so bad. And you can add these components that actually helps. Then to encourage diversity up to the age of 50 and saying, don't just do tennis. In hockey in Canada, we have 5-year-olds who do nothing but hockey 365 days of the year by parents who believe they're going to become Gretzky's. And only 1% of them will. And therefore 99% of them will lose their identity. That's that's actually harmful, isn't it? So we answer it that way. And in one place called the Calgary Winter Club, we ran programs, and this was a very powerful one for a club that had multi-sport. We came up to the parents. This club has 15,000 people, the one club, and multiple sports in that club. And we took the parents like this, and we said, hey, how many of your kids come to this place? If you have 5 kids, how many come? 2, we'll say. Oh, 1 comes to tennis, 1 comes to swimming. Good. How come your other 3 aren't coming? Oh, well, there's nothing here for them. They don't want to be stars. They just want to be moving well. You don't have anything for us. And then when we said that, they went, oh yeah, why don't you have anything for us? It's not who's in sport, it's who's not in sport. So every parent might have a kid that's not coming to the club because the club doesn't offer anything for them. So we created a program, a multi-sport program, where you're not becoming excellent. You're becoming personally excellent, but you're not going on the train to win trajectory. Becoming recreational. And when we did that, we gave them multi-sport experiences. And when we offered the physical literacy experiences segment in the club, so the tennis guy did a few sessions to beginners, the water guy did, the water gal, this and the other thing. They all got together and said, oh, we'll put that together on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's sold out in 5 minutes. And now these kids that weren't coming to the club now come to the club. What happens to them downstream, I don't know. So that's a success story. So you have to think differently about who's not there, right? And that's a big deal. So that's a good question. But there are some ways around that in the end. Is there another one?
Yeah, that answer leads into a little bit of the second question, or one of the other questions that Ed was about how do you help improve the transition between sports?
Yeah.
You sort of answered that a little bit with the build-up of a specific club that is a multi-sport club.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess here is maybe if you've got a football team and you've got some trainers, and a lot of our trainers, the majority is volunteers here, and they want to diverse. Are there any tips for getting that football trainer to a handball club?
Right.
Perhaps is there?
Yeah, I mean certainly up to the age of 15, 16, it's really critical to have everybody on the same page in all the sports, believing and even knowing that most coaches don't even know what other activities the person participates in, and sometimes are intolerant to it. During break, you can't go snowboarding. You're a gymnast. You know how many times I've heard that? You'll break your wrist. Well, yeah, you can break your wrist, but there's balance, coordination. There's 100 things that gives you. So encouraging the fact that to become aware of all the other activities that the kids do, because the kids won't want to talk about it. They'll be actually socially inhibited about saying, yeah, I also do this, because they'll think that the coach will think negatively on them. So that we need to stamp out that thinking. And then coach will, yeah, hey, that's a great idea. You do that? That explains why you're so good here. But we should make that explicit. Second is that everybody should have the same. If you're in quality sport, you will embrace that thinking. That's role modeling. If you don't embrace it, you're not doing quality sport. So I always say, 70% of people drop out of sport. That's the number we use in Canada. Probably the same here, after age 12. If it's roughly the same numbers, I'd like to think that 30% of people drop out for the right reasons. I don't like it. But of the remainder, they're dropping out of what I'm going to call as non-quality sport. So then watch me paraphrase this. 70% of people drop out of something masquerading as sport. In real life, it may only be 30%. But really, it's only they keep on dropping out because nobody picks up the person who drops off the basketball team and puts them back into another path. So it might actually only be 5% in reality. But we don't do that because basketball doesn't talk to volleyball. Mm-hmm. We don't. Like, who dropped off your team? And you should go, yay, thank you, you're gone. But hey, have you heard about basketball? And by the way, the coach is different than me, better than me. I don't know how you answer that, but we don't have any community. If you're in a recreation facility, you know enrollment in every single program. And when you lose enrollment in one, you should be contacting those people later saying, hey, did you know we've got these other things too? Not saying, why did you leave? Where can I take you next? I mean, in Canada, we get a lot of people who go in high performance sport from one sport to another and get gold medals for us. But that's not done on purpose. It is now done on purpose. We allow poaching between sports. Poach the player. It's like, yeah, how do you do that though? Yeah, got to be a pretty good ego of his coach to actually accept that, right? So there are different strategies that are being, so in Canada, we've got like hundreds of examples of things that are happening well, some that are not. But I mean, not today, but we can talk about, hey, have you ever seen one of these things happen? Like sport and physical education. You know, there's lots of examples of that happening now. New immigrants and sport. So there's lots of examples of creating diverse movement vocabulary in the kids. And, you know, it's very exciting. So there are ways of doing it. Any other questions? Comments? Anything? It's a lot to take in. Does it empower you? Yeah, it should make you feel like, oh yeah. We do. I mean, I always want the public to know, what does quality sport look like? They don't know. They don't know what quality sport looks like, and we need to model quality sport. And if something's not showing quality sport, you say, that's not sport. That's something that's not sport. It's like, if you're going to that, don't associate it with us, because we only do quality here. You know, you have to do it. You have to speak the talk and talk the walk. But at the end of the day.
I've saved Anders' first question to the last, and that's because I'm not really entirely sure if it was a question, rather than a statement or a wish or a dream. And it's about på svenska det står det här förberedelsesamverkan kring barn i rörelse, which means sort of prepare collaboration that are kids in motion. And I guess that's something that we have here in Sweden, which I guess Anders, I'm guessing a lot here because it was about something very similar to physical literacy. And I'm not sure how much have you spoken to Anders about that at all, or that's maybe why he's asked the question for us. And what do you, because you guys know about Barney Road, so that's something we have here, right? So how would how does that fit in with physical literacy, and where can those two kind of ideas, if you like, join up?
Anybody? Tell me about it, and so I know about it.
Jag vet inte vad de menar. Någon som känner igen?
Jag tror inte att det finns någon som...
Barnrörelse. Är det något projekt?
Ja, den är som i, vad heter de här?
Jag tror att man menar alltså, förberedelsesamverkan kring barnen, alltså our Swedish way of children movement. How do we go on further with this? The tools.
And it's collaboration between those two.
Collaboration between
Well, I guess I'm guessing Barney Road, so I interpreted that as being a sort of an idea of movement that we have in Swedish sport. So it's got, and we've got, how do we collaborate there with physical literacy? How do those two marry up?
Yeah. Well, I mean, anything can be a quality physical literacy experience if it meets the criteria. And so, in the end of the day, it's like, if you get taught A, B, C, D, E, F, G to Z, you have to go, as soon as you leave language arts class, English class, you use it in the next class, in math class, you use English all the time. But if you get taught a movement in phys ed, where do you use it? That's the problem. So that if there's strong collaborations between sport and we believe in what we believe in, people need to move to fix the ailments, that means that the kid will say, hey, I'm not just going to sit down for the rest of the night doing this. I'm going to actually go do something to use my movement skills. Because if you don't use your movement skills, they don't get better. It's that simple. And they don't just grow naturally on you. So to me, it's like, it's truly coordinating all the different programs and then finding the ability to funnel the kids to the right programs, and then when they leave them, go to the other. But we don't do that yet. In Canada, we have some communities have become physically literacy enriched communities. There's communication, truly, between sport, performance arts, recreation, and education. And they meet all the time. And they manage the kids' journey. And now, in a couple of places in Canada, we've now got that for older adults. That the recreation facility now has older adult programs to create mobility, which is a really big issue. Sport, we often don't think about that. You know, after 30, it's like, I mean, we should say, hey, we're sport for all ages. But where is that? You know, how do you embrace the older participation level and get their movement skills back? I mean, re-entry happens. I have tons of female hockey in Canada after 40. Huge growth. Female-only hockey after 40. Never been on skates before. Creates a huge rush of people who get the positive feedback cycle, right? They get competence, they get confidence, and then you go like this, I'm going to try triathlon. I'm not joking. I'll put on a Speedo finally.
Sounds like me in the summer.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, it's like that cycle works at any age, right? And so to me, it's like catching the kids. We have a great filter in sport. The filter is like a coffee filter, and most of the stuff is draining out. And we don't catch them. You know, we're so focused on the excellence tip that this filter going out, it doesn't mean you have to stay in my sport or my club. Australia did this. Australia made a whole bunch of clubs. And it made these modified programs down to 3 years of age. They failed because what happened was the club netball, mini roos, all these modified programs for schools, they created this structure like that. And they created 5 of them in a school, maybe 3 in a school, but nobody was tracking if they went between them or even saw them all. And what should be, if the clubs got together and got rid of egos, all 5 operate and every kid does all 5. And then you can focus and shift to 1 more if you want. But then every kid gets the diverse movement vocabulary, feels good about different movements, and then goes, okay, that's cool. But if you give them the choice, and the club only cares about if they make it to 14, 15. But if the kids are watering out, nobody was talking about how you keep them in the mix, right? And never mind performance arts, right? Which circus actually gets included in your gymnastics here, which is really interesting. That's a performance art component. But in the end of the day, in parkour, your parkour thing and combined with gymnastics is amazing. You're actually probably the best model of that in the world. Because gymnastics clubs often shrink in size, and when you added parkour, parkour goes boom. You get all of a sudden 250 kids, and the club was 50 before, but 200 are in parkour, 50 still in gymnastics. So gymnastics got to take away their ego and go, oh, okay, well, we're really a parkour gym club now. But hopefully what you're wanting is some parkour kids going to gymnastics. Even if it's 15, that's good, right? So in the end of the day, those are success stories of blending, right? Which wasn't there before. I'll show you this quickly. See these guys right here? This is a circus. And this is a troupe that's doing bankin, which is cheerleading, which is part of your gymnastics federation. And this is really advanced stuff. See that girl right there? She's being tossed by these guys here called porters. She's called flyer. She's going to land in those guys' hands. She can do a double twisting, double back, and land in the hands of some people here. These 2 people actually do the skill. One's 19, and I'm not going to mention the other one because I'm on camera right now, but the other one's over 50, doing exactly what the 19-year-old does. Now that's exciting because, watch this, I'm going to sell you something really critical here. Remember the bone picture I showed you before? This is what happens to people's bones after 30. If you don't develop them well, they stay down here really bad. I showed you that. After 30, the average Canadian, average Swede drops their bone mass 1% per year. If you're female after 40, it drops 2% to 4% per year. That's normal, meaning unhealthy. We measured this in all our circus performers. You're the only people in the world who stay healthy and active for life. The only people that we know as a group. Here's their bone mass. I stripped out the people under 20, and I stripped out all the people over 65. The girls are in blue. This is how much bone they have in their body. From 20 to 65, the girls lose no bone. The boys lose no bone. It stays flat. They don't lose muscle, they don't lose bone until about 65. And you know how much they're active? We put vests on them that measure their heart rate, their breathing, their movement. And these guys do, at adulthood, 240 minutes a week of moderate, vigorous physical activity. The minimum for adults is 150. The target for kids is 420 minutes a week. So they're at 240. They do 457 shows a year, gold medal. Just think about that in periodization. I'm beginning to go, okay, what does that mean? We have people who have done over 10,000 shows over 20 years. That's pretty impressive. That's durability. The injury rates in circus are 8 injuries per 1,000 hours of operation. At Gymnastics Sweden, Gymnastics Canada, it's 15 to 20 injuries per 1,000 hours. Why? Because they're physically illiterate. Every single circus performer, with some exceptions, must be able to do all other skills. They're the most physically illiterate people on the face of the planet. As a result, they last till 87 in the industry. Our oldest performer is 87. They don't lose their bone, they don't lose their muscle. Well, hey, what a lesson. I'm learning from them. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Why are their injuries so low? 4 times the risk, but they have to move in the dark. If you ask a young gymnastics performer, show me how to move, show me some moves, they'll go like this. You say, round off, back handspring, back tuck. Boom, happens. I do, show me a cartwheel one way, and show me the cartwheel the other way. They can't. That's not versatile. That's repertoire based on FIG, the international standard. That's not creative. That's not ownership. They're a little, when you're a gymnast, you're a marionette. You're choreographed. You don't own your routine. That routine is somebody else's. I'm not saying they should own it, but I'm saying that's not versatility. You know, but this year I did see a good benefit of the confidence part, first time ever. But in the end of the day, quality physical literacy experiences makes them get less injured. That means they have to have diverse movement vocabulary, not based on the code. The code is driving bad behavior, asymmetry. But that's an important thing to think about and have the discussion. I had the discussion last night with the head of Gymnastics Sweden. We had a good conversation. It was a good one. Completely agreed with this. So in the end of the day, there is data that supports, you know, diversification of movement and in a very strong way and healthy way. You should show this graph to people. Any parent goes, I'm not going to break down when I'm over 40. Well, no, if you do this. And sport can do it for you. Go to that parkour gym thing. But if you look at the parkour gym clubs, how many people over 30? Yeah, almost non-existent. But why isn't there an over 30 program for parkour gym? The girl I showed you tumbling off the rock, remember her? She was spinning off the side. She runs Parkour Day in Canada. It's women's only parkour. You have to do that because of the problems. But she has a women's only parkour and you have to be over 40. And it has 100 people in a town this size. Participating, that's cool, right? And you know, but why aren't we doing that? Multi-generational, intergenerational behaviors. Have the 15-year-old parkour boys and girls teaching mums and dads. You know, progression is everything. Don't have to do any complicated wall flips, but in the end of the day, it's pretty cool. Any other questions, comments?
I guess on Saturday you will get a question about Pokemon Go.
Yeah, for sure. I can tell you about it.
Yeah.
I'm level 21. I did it because of the fact that I needed to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really big thing for me. Pokemon Go is using this tool correctly. And yesterday at the Apple launch, and I track this, the Apple people have now, in their new Apple Watch, for the first time ever, put a single application inside of it entirely, and it's Pokemon Go, which is a Fitbit, basically. So now the Apple Watch will contain Pokemon Go. You don't need that anymore in the entire watch for the future. Why? Because they have created the greatest physical activity change ever. No government, no agency has created this much physical activity on the face of the planet, ever. They dwarf any initiative from all of us. So in the end of the day, am I anti-Pokemon Go? Well, you know, it's funny to watch people walking like zombies around, you know, looking for things. That's funny. And some people walk into cars and fall off cliffs. But that happens in football too. People die. But in the end of the day, amazing. Is it for everybody? No. It's only a physical activity initiative. It hasn't added movement skills to it. So it's like saying, at recess, we should march, right? Okay, not bad. Physically proficient people aren't bad, right? A hockey player is physically proficient, but not physically literate. A Pokemon Go person is physically proficient in walking. So, nothing wrong with that, but that's not physical literacy. If they added something that was physical literacy to it, I'd be really happy. I don't have time to talk to them. They make billions of dollars in that. Maybe we'll talk to me, I'm not sure. But you can add that. Good phys ed teachers, sport people. You know what we did? At the Canada Games, which is one of our games, we actually put lures because all the participants use it. 17-year-olds are using it. So we actually put lures by our venues. So they all walk by our venues. And then there's sport happening here too. But in the end of the day, even for the athletes, phys ed teachers should learn how to use it. Go on a Pokemon. Is it bad? No, it's just a thing. The Fitbit bad? No, it's just a thing. In the end of the day, it's not physical literacy, but it's physical activity. So I'm not anti-Pokemon Go. I'm pro-Pokemon Go, but it's not the solution. But it's the best one so far. But, how do you use it in your facilities? I've used it for training. So I'll give you an example. In Portage la Prairie, Manitoba, I have my cross-country ski team during summer training, and I know where all the Pokemon spots are to get the eggs and things like that. So I say, and I put signs on the benches and the monuments, and the signs are movement preparation drills. And I say, go to all the ones and come back and do your drills. I could do Pokemon Go and train. Yeah, please. It's a trick, but is it an evil thing? I'm pretty sure it's not evil. It makes a lot of money, gotta tell you. I went to 21, I cheated though. Because my son and I are programmers, so we actually queried the database of the Pokemon database, which is freely available. And you can actually download the location of all Pokemon 30 minutes in advance. So you don't have to go hunting for them, you just walk up and it's right here, and you catch it. So when I sold those maps with the Pokemon on them to kids for $1. So then every 30 minutes they have to give me $1 to get a new map. I'm joking, but we did do that. One guy finished a game in a month and a half. Normally it would take 3 years using that technique. So if you want to cheat, I'll tell you how to do it. If you want to get level 40, I got sick of it at 21. But it is pretty cool. It goes to all the monuments. If you're in rural communities, there's nothing to do. So it's anti-rural. If you're up north here, it's like there ain't no things to do. It's a useless game. Put it down. Good question. Anything else? Anything pressing?
Movement preparation interactive PDFs.
Mm-hmm.
Are they free online?
Yeah. So I'll give you something on that right now. Maybe I'll go to that. These are all our injuries. Hang on. I'll have it here. Hang on. Let me see. I'm going to give you one here, which will be useful. So what you're going to see here is I design all the core training routines at Circus Light. We have level 1 to level 14, roughly. Level 8 would be the highest you can be individually. After 8, it goes into discipline-specific stuff, which we're sick at. Core gives us the ability to move our limbs. And a lot of us in the fitness game will do a 2-minute front plank, and we'll go, oh, that's interesting. But what happens at about a minute is the veins on your neck pop out, and your eyes become lasers trying to cut the person who's teaching you. So I'm going to show you a level 8 core, and I'm going to say to you, if you combine physical literacy with fitness, you get great things. If you're a strength and conditioning person, they're very good at strength, endurance, body composition, cardiovascular fitness, and flexibility. But that's not physical literacy. If you combine fitness and physical literacy, you get this. This is Sasha. So he's got reasonable balance, just okay balance. He's got okay muscularity. He's got reasonable flexibility in the end of the day. He can do actually a quadruple backflip. There's nobody in the world who can do that but him. There's a few. Just think, even gymnastics isn't even close to that yet. His specialty is equilibrium, and you can see he's quite flexible and strong. We have no flexibility requirements for injury prevention. There's tons of literature showing injury prevention is not from flexibility. Performance is. Hundreds and hundreds of articles. Yet we get busy with flexibility. If you need to get flexible, you need to, for performance reasons. But if you're not learning movement skills correctly, you're not going to reduce injuries. Flexibility will not help you. In the end of the day, he's got a core that's called a physical literacy enriched core routine. So that's this one. So here is our level 1, 2, 3 core. This is an interactive PDF. You can tap on that, it shows a video. It's right there, you just download it. The boss from Cirque du Soleil told me, I cannot distribute this. But then I said, can I leak it? And he said, yes. So I leaked it, right there. Now if you download this, why I want you to look at it, first off, level 3 course sick. But if you do this with me, I can teach you why this is a physical literacy enriched fitness routine and not a fitness routine. So in Canada, I'm one of the heads of CSEP, Canadian Society of Exercise Physiology. We don't teach physical literacy yet, but we will into the future. So now fitness will have a physical literacy component. That's what we've been missing in the past. This is a physical literacy enriched. Does that Google link work? Are you typing it in?
Yeah.
Just tell me if it works, just to make sure.
It works.
Okay, good. So when you tap on that one, so you can see, most of this, I'll tell you the story here. Watch this, guys. This is your core. Nobody's got a precise definition of it. These are your limbs. They move around your core. This is not stable. This is not stable. You need to have your trunk moving with your limbs. That's stability. This teaches your brain how to control the trunk while your limbs move. During perturbations, when you get hit, things like that. So this allows the brain to control movement and develops muscle strength and endurance. I could show this to you in seconds. This, by the way, from there to there, takes 5 minutes. Once you can do each one of these at 30 seconds, you start off at 10. By the way, I went into some schools in Canada. Now there's 22,000 schools in Canada. About 400 of them use this in kindergarten. I'm not joking. They have this poster up there. The kids have their iPads. They have a QRS code beside it, and they choose what exercise they want to do. There's no progression. This could be 5 years old. It could be, this could be state, provincial level athletes. Depends where you are. I want this one right here. Actually, Canadian women's national soccer team, who does pretty good. They're all level 2. In Synchro, Canada, we just started this last year, they're going to be level 4. So we now have specific levels for each group. But then it creates good strength and flexibility, strength and fitness, but also creates a brain that can control movement. So control the trunk while the limbs move. That's huge. But we never had that before. If you don't deal with your strength and conditioning people in a very clear way, they don't know this. They may have been doing functional training. If they're doing functional training, they're kind of doing this. But this is a big thing for the strength people. They go, woo, when they see it. They go, oh, I see why you're doing that. Like if you're a sailor, and you're, but you got the main sheet here and your tiller here, and you're on outright, what's happening? Waves are happening like this, right? Your body has to handle the waves. This teaches your body how to handle wave. You can do a 2-minute front plank, but that's not reality. Nothing wrong with doing a 2-minute front plank. So this is freely downloadable. Everybody can take it and understand why it works. Is it perfect? No. If you go from here to there, if you do 5 minutes a day for a month, you go to level 3. That's pretty cool. Level 3 is not easy. If you, here's a move right here, that one. You're going to do a side plank, put this hand down, put this down. So you're on side plank, not like this, like that. Then you're like this, in air, which is not easy. So these two are on the ground. And then you're going to push off and land on this side. That's a level 3 move. But it's progressive. We don't show level 4 because people go, they're too crazy. Not a single implement. There ain't no med balls here. Because I have 460 kids in a class. I don't have 60 pieces of, med balls, but this is cool. The movement preparation document, the one I just showed you, is not available online yet. It will be very shortly. The old movement, if you type in movement preparation right now, you'll get the old guide, which is 7 years old. So the new movement preparation guide, you'll be able to download in about a month. And then everybody gets it. Because our job at Canadian Sport for Life, these guys here, is to give things for free, not to hoard at all.
But that is not sport specific in any way.
The old one is not sport specific, it's lower body sports.
Okay.
The new one, the newest one that you'll get is soccer specific. And then you're going to see all the other ones coming out from Canadian Sport for Life to be so that every coach has a recipe. If you're really good at what you do, you modify the recipes. You're a chef. But if you're a beginner coach, you'd be a recipe follower. So it allows a chef to be a chef and a cook to be a cook. Cooks can follow recipes, beginner coaches. The good coaches can make their own and modify it. And that's what we want. But if you click on these, if I go back and show you it, it'd be fairly important. But this is, we've had great success with these. And just let it go. Good. Interactive PDF has been a big thing for us because you get this, it's small. And if you click on this right there, it says Athlete's Handbook. And then it explains to the athlete why they should be doing this. It says Parents' Handbook. It explains to the parents why they should have their kids doing this. Then there's the Coach's Handbook on here, which is the entire 70-slide PowerPoint slides with cues on how to cue it. Every parent gets it, every athlete gets it, every coach gets it. Transparent. This is an encyclopedia, but it doesn't contain, that's all offline. But this is only like a megabyte. It's very tiny. And then you click on this, you get a video, and then it shows you all the progressions here. If you click on that, the word dynamics, which is old dynamic warm-up, if you click on that, it tells you how to cue it as a coach. It shows you how do you make that skill be the right skill, and how do you cue the motion. These interactive PDFs have been we started them at Cirque du Soleil, but now we're using them in sport, and they're easy to make. You can make them Microsoft Word. And then if somebody accesses the video, it immediately shows me that I got an access from an IP address. So I know how many times across the world somebody's accessed that video. How many times somebody's downloaded that. And I go, yeehaw. And I just give this thing out, and virally, everybody gets this. So but everybody gets the same thing. So parents know what you know. That should not be scary. That should be, yay. No, but in the end of the day, kick this up a notch. But you'll see this was the one that's coming out from Soccer Canada. And it was interesting because I had the FIFA people with me because I work with FIFA, and they made FIFA 11 Plus. When they saw this, they said, why are we doing FIFA 11 Plus? That's a big deal for FIFA people to say that, right? So they put millions and millions of dollars into it. But in the end of the day, the same principles that are here are in FIFA 11 Plus. This is FIFA 11 Plus kicked up a notch. But this is age independent. You can do it from 5 years of age to 80. You just have to start at the beginning and progress. We have a level 4. This is level 1, level 2, level 3. We have a level 4. Haven't given it out yet because we're just starting to roll it. But we study this too. So we assess programs that use this that don't. What's the difference? Injuries, performance, stuff like that. But I mean, it's just an idea, right? But it's based on physical literacy. Any other comments? Questions? Ideas? What does everybody do here exactly? I can't remember everybody again. Communications. 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 That's part of it. I just roughly again.
Yeah, education.
Communication.
Education. Sports.
Education. Sports. Beautiful.
Coaches and clubs and so on.
Yeah, very powerful.
Yeah,
this stuff. Yeah. And it's just supporting what we do well. If you do it well, it's a great thing. I teach at the level 4 in Canada, which is our highest level coaches. And even the basic stuff by level 4 gets lost. And we forget some things, so I have to remind them of what it is, but that's okay. I get it. It's volunteer. It's hard to keep all that information. And I know what you do. I know what you do.
Yeah.
We're going to talk more because you've got the obstacle course stuff, the mini FT, age appropriate fitness development, right? So you got the word fitness in there, right? Right. So I would keep it that way, but age appropriate physical literacy development is probably what you're doing, I'm guessing. Is what you're doing more physical literacy than fitness?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. But keep the name, it doesn't matter. And what do you do again?
Education.
Oh, perfect. Love it. Great, important area.
Gymnastics.
Oh, yeah, love it. Love gymnastics. We steal a lot of people from gymnastics in the circus. Thank you. I audition to people, so it's kind of fun to actually see. I always have the young gymnasts going like this and show me what you can do. And they're like, and I say, round up, back handspring, back up. Yes, no problems. It's like, boom, double layup? Yeah, okay. Double twist? Sure.
Education.
Oh, perfect.
I'm the same.
Same education.
Education,
Communication.
martial arts.
Same.
School sports.
Right, so it's going to be interesting that one, eh?
Yeah.
Getting into schools is, I mean, very important to do, and it's a hard game. Are you finding it good?
Second day, so
Yeah, okay. So enjoy. But what we did, and I'll tell you the story, we went into certain schools and had them do some of this stuff, made the school physically literate. And the principal buys in, it's called a principal here, the head of a school. The principal buys in, phys ed teachers buy in, all the teachers buy in. The school topples like a domino, then all the other schools see that school and go, the principal who's got an ego goes, we're going to do that in my school. You got one good school, all of a sudden all the other schools go tick, 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 like dominoes. So that's what you want to achieve that. We have a new policy in Canada that's just coming out. It'll take 5 years to roll out. A no withhold recess policy. You have recess for your kids in kindergarten to grade 6, do you? You don't have outdoor, you don't have recess.
dust.
It's not breaks.
Or breaks.
Yeah.
And they go outside and play and stuff like that, right? Mostly. So in Canada, it's 15 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at lunch, and 15 minutes in the afternoon. So it's an hour a day. We also have a school day that goes split in a different way, but it always adds up to an hour. We give recess toolkits. You can actually type this in, recess toolkit, and you'll get the toolkit we give the schools, which makes physical recess physically literate. And then we now have a policy in some parts of Canada where we say you cannot withhold recess, meaning that you can't take it away from a kid because you're harming the kid. Because right now they stop it if it's too cold out. For us, it's minus 25. That is too cold. But they walk to school at minus 30, but they can't go out at minus 25. It doesn't make any sense. And you can't hold it for administrative reasons or punitive reasons to do homework. But that's saying something, right? The school then can't withhold it. And for us, that was a big deal. And then once we passed the law in one spot, then everybody else, because we had one school board get rid of afternoon recess to save money. And we said, no, you can't do that. If you do that, you're harming the child. What do you mean I'm harming them? Well, we know that if you do activity, you're a better learner. And if they don't get free play, it's kind of like tying them up. So you're tying up your kids. I don't like that image, right? And it's like, okay, we won't do that. But one school did it, boom. And all of a sudden all the other schools did it as well. So that's going to be a fun one. And yours?
Education.
Education. So this is useful to have seen this. And so you get these slides. So before I leave, I give you, on your Mac, I give you the slide set. And then you have it. Make sense? Any other questions? Comments? What word? I need Sweden to have a word for physical literacy.
Yeah, that's good for me to know
Yeah.
that word.
So here, I'll tell you all the discussions so far that I've had with people across Sweden. Here are the two possibilities. Because we have to do it in French, we have to deal with this. So in Canada, we're bilingual, French and English. And the word in French is one of two words. It's either savoir-faire physique, which means, anybody speak French here? Nobody? Savoir-faire is kind of like, I'm kind of competent at things. It's kind of like, I'm good at stuff. It's like, I'm good. So savoir-faire physique means I'm good at stuff. So that was one thought. The other one was, the word literacy comes from French. So they use the word literatie and then physique. So we brought in people from France and all from Quebec and parts that speak French. Put them in a room. There's 90 of us together. I'm an Anglophone, but I speak French. But I said, you make your choice. Don't matter to me, but we can't have two words you confuse the public. They chose literacy physique. Okay? That's good. Because then it's the same as physical literacy. So it's like, yay. Here, when I was flying in on the plane with the Swedish talk, I heard when they told me to put my laptop away and my device, it goes in Swedish, blah, 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 flight mode, da, 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 da. So they use the word flight mode, which is an English term. So there's no word for flight mode, or there must be, but it's not used. Yeah, but on the plane, in Swedish, it's flight mode. Oh, so you could use the word physical literacy. I don't know how tolerable that is in society here. And I studied your words of literacy, and you just have to be careful about this one. And I think it's what's
Kunnighet.
that's more like competence.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make physical literacy competence, our experience in Canada, Australia, and Wales is that people then only think about movement skill competence and don't think about the psychological parts and the social parts of physical literacy. That would be my only concern. That if you say it's physical competence, which you would easily be able to do that with the words you have, you forget that physical literacy is psychological, social, and physical. So what word works?
I would say that go for the English, or you could actually just we have the same words, fysisk
Yes, I know it.
and litterat. Literacy comes from Latin,
Right.
and
Original.
it's strongly connected to
Right.
the words and the will to. But there's the term. The word is exists in Swedish too.
Oh, it does.
Litterat,
I
which
did-
means that you're gifted.
Okay.
So I would say fysisk litterat.
Makes good sense to me. What's the aversion to that? Because that'll make people react. Because what it sounds like to me, in Canada we have this literacy, which is reading and writing skills, numeracy, which is numerical literacy, which is math skills, musical literacy, which is musical skills, financial literacy, which is financial management skills. So we use the word literacy, like you're suggesting, you should have general abilities in that area.
Yes.
Statistical literacy. If literacy in Swedish has only been associated with reading and writing, you're going to have a battle. But it is a good word if it means the same as our context. And if it
But if you
does,
listen to synonyms if you Google for it,
right?
it also means it's very strongly connected to reading and writing, but also means
Oh, good.
gifted,
Right.
like gifted in a specific area.
So I'm good with that. I mean, to me, you do want to have a term so everybody can rally about it and own it in Swedish style. Because if you use the English, I get a little concerned. If that becomes the word, the countries align instantaneously, right? You're in alignment with Dutch, you're in alignment with the Welsh, the Australians, the Canadians, the Americans. What are you worried about? Is that that word?
No, we are launching another word for it
Okay.
here right now during the change
Okay,
this year. Rörelsevik, very hard for me from southern part of Sweden. Rörelsevik. It's like movement rich.
Right.
Movement rich.
Sure.
We try that because it feels like more easy to understand, and it's not so you don't think about physical competence.
Mhm,
It can stand for more, and as a child, it's been more easier to understand. Rich of movement.
See, I like the synonyms because I had a bunch of jingles in my presentation, right? Advertisements. But to me, it's like associating, even if that's the word and that's the word, I think you could make those marry. Because we always talk about how do you explain this to a parent, right? Well, I like the concept of saying, well, it's really a movement-rich kid. I was talking about movement vocabulary, which is movement-rich kid. So that is a core of it. But you do want to be careful into the future and think of, because you got an alignment with other countries to deal with. I mean, you don't have to, but So I like, you could have 2 terms even. It doesn't really matter. You can say, oh, that's part of it, or that's another way to look at it. You know, so I think that could work. That doesn't worry me.
But we're going into phase 1, step 1 here. We start to make a decision.
Right.
Start talking about it.
But what I would do is I'd bring other people to the table who are the health sector. I mean, sport can lead this, and it should, in my opinion. But not everybody loves sport. So you need the health people, the education people, the leisure people. Like that's what we did in Canada. We took all of those people around the table and we had the discussion. Some, a little bit. And then after that, oh yeah, okay, I see, because the health people had to go, oh, it's not just about creating Olympic medals. It's about creating a culture of health. Okay. Then they go, oh, okay, I believe in your term, but you need everybody on side. You need all the physicians, all the doctors to use the term and know it. So the Doctors Association should have a conversation with them. They'll go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Because then everybody goes to the doctor and they're saying, hey, how's your kid's physical literacy or movement richness? What a good thing. And, oh, they're not movement rich. Please send them. You almost want them to do that, right? It's not just looking at their bodies and saying, oh, how's your movement ability? Wouldn't you want every physician to do that? Be your ally? Anyway, useful. This is long. Useful though? Yeah. But yeah, the term does mean something into the future. And so you have to, I think you could get away with 2 terms if you wanted to do 2 terms, but ultimately you're going to see every other country that I work with is going to has that term. That term is a component of it. And I think it works beautifully because I use the word too, movement vocabulary, right? A rich movement vocabulary. You say that all the time.
So in Sweden, you can actually spell out movement vocabulary with rörelsevokabulär.
Okay.
So,
right. So then that would work nicely with that. So you're saying that if you're movement rich, what does that mean? You have a wide variety of movements in your pocket, right? I can, in water, land, air, ice, snow. So that would work. So you want to have those terms aligned so that you can give a list. So parents can go, oh, I get it. Because if the parent doesn't buy into it, we're toast in the long term. And we've done some analysis with the parents. And initially they kind of go, well, what's that? And then they go, oh, and then they see the components and they go, okay, yeah, I want my kid to be physically literate. I want my kid to be movement rich, right? That's what you want the parent to do. So then you're knocking at your door saying, where's the movement rich program in tennis? Is tennis movement rich or not? Oh, yeah, it's somewhat rich. But if you have a really good tennis program, here's what it looks like. This is like, what's the sport? Fencing. In fencing, you need to be able to dive roll. People don't realize that. If you're a fencer, you need to be able to do a dive roll. But nowadays, the people going into fencing, foil épée, saber, whatever, don't know how to dive roll anymore because they weren't taught it in phys ed, because they don't teach forward and backward rolls anymore in most places. So then all of a sudden, now you have the fencing program at 13, 14, 15, 16, getting kids who can't do the basic movement skills that are required for the sport. And then the fencing teacher goes, I've never taught dive rolls before. What do I do? They should be talking to you and saying, hey, gymnast friends, come help me teach dive rolls in my sport, which has now lost them because of no free play and no phys ed teaching dive rolls. So, you have to have a list that works, a list of words that make sense conceptually to anybody. Good enough. Anything else?
No, I think so. There's no more questions. You've got to get away to equal.
Yeah.
Rush.
Where am I going next?
We're going actually back to the hotel. We're
Okay.
looking at the media.
Oh, media. And do a sound bite. Cool.
Oh,